Hey everyone, this is Tingo welcoming you to another installment of War Wednesday. Today's war will be covering the war that took place between us and Endgame. This was a tough matchup for us and a war we ended up losing pretty handily. But you couldn't tell that from my first battle, which was Uncanny Phoenix versus Wave 1 with Captain Marvel. This is a pretty simple matchup, there's not a lot to it. Uncanny Phoenix has always been a very good counter to Wave 1, and Captain Marvel really doesn't scare me here. Hawkeye's ult will put out some blinds, Psylocke's ult or Phoenix's special will either fire them off to the other team or soak them all up into Phoenix. The hope here is that Phoenix will get her special off, she'll put everyone else into stealth mode, and then Captain Marvel will wipe her out, spawning Dark Phoenix. That's the goal anyway. Beyond that, as I said before, the Uncanny Phoenix team is a pretty standard counter for Wave 1. Battle number 2 is going to be Axemen versus Doc Ock Sinister 6. Now, as I've covered many times before, this is the perfect matchup for Axemen. Because of the large mess of negative effects that are piling up on my Axemen right away, my first turn with Beast will be his special to cleanse as much of that as I possibly can. From there, it's an all-out attack on Doc Ock, using Bishop's ultimate. Iceman's ultimate will get some slows out there, which is very handy for getting some control on the team. And then it's time for Kitty's ultimate, which will throw a Disrupted out. If the tune is a tech tune, it will disrupt for 2 turns. This is incredibly powerful if it lands on Doc Ock, because then none of his regens that he will be generating every single turn will be sticking, which will remove his longevity. And then it's Jubilee's ultimate to stun him, just for good measure. At that point, you could almost put this on auto, just make sure to keep firing down on Doc Ock, and the rest is pretty much easy cleanup. Battle number 3 is going to be Fantastic Four She-Hulk, and I take in my Ultimus Kree. Now, as usual with my Ultimus Kree, I use their skills to my advantage. Korath has the ability to put up a taunt, and Ultimus has the ability to wreck anyone who has a taunt. Minerva keeps the team alive for a very, very long time, and Captain Marvel is a very heavy hitter. It also helps that the ISO on this defensive team is completely wrong. As I've stated before about how Invisible Woman's passive works, You really want Fortifier on She-Hulk, Human Torch, Thing, and Stretch. That way Invisible Woman is constantly hitting back whomever is hitting one of her allies. In this case, it's just not there. So they have to rely on Invisible Woman putting up barrier, and once that barrier is gone, her attack mechanisms are over. There's really nothing that makes these Skirmisher, Striker, Raiders worth anything, because the other three characters, which are Stretch, Thing, and Human Torch, are squishes. Human Torch specifically is a squish. He's the highest offense character on that team, and yet he's also the easiest to wipe out. That's one of those times that a Fortifier class is absolutely the right call. But as you see, to open, my Ronin gets taken out right away by Human Torch, and then I take out Human Torch with my Captain Marvel. So suddenly, I have really turned the tables on who's doing damage. And of course, every time you use the Ultimus Kree team and you lose even your squishiest toon, you want to use Minerva's special immediately, so that the cooldown timer can start and you can get that back around for later in case you need it for one of your big toons. Against Fantastic Four with She-Hulk, there are two toons you really want to get rid of. The first of which is She-Hulk herself. She will constantly taunt, and so she'll get in the way of you trying to make any headway against any of the other toons. And the other toon that's really the most pivotal on this team is Invisible Woman. So your battle might feel like a stalemate for a little bit, but as long as you're making headway on either She-Hulk or Invisible Woman, and I would recommend She-Hulk, you should be able to take this team out pretty easily. Again, with my Ultimus Kree, Minerva really is the support toon that all support toons should be, and she does a lot to keep my team going. And don't forget that Ultimus' special will strip positive effects from the other team, so use that judiciously. Alrighty, we're on to attack number 4, and this is going to be a gigantic Marauders. So I end up taking in XFactor and Jessica Jones. Now, XFactor alone, especially a very big one, can take out Marauders as it stands today. What makes this tick is that Multiple Man will put 2 dupes out there with Taunt on his special, and then Sinister will clone a dupe. Dupes are about the most useless character that can be cloned by Mr. Sinister. Now, this happened before the rework for Marauders. This is no longer going to be the case because Sinister's clones will bypass Taunt. And now he will end up cloning your highest damage toon. So he's not going to be picking up dupes anymore. He's going to be picking up probably Shatterstar or Longshot if you run this now. Combine that with the new character coming in, and XFactor will no longer win this matchup. That said, this was a fun team while it lasted. I'm not 100% sure that it won't still work. For now, if you're really concerned about it and you still want to run XFactor as your counter to the Marauders, I would very much suggest putting Kestrel in the 5th slot. That way, when she's charged, she will stop Sinister's clone mechanic. They have not gotten rid of that loophole, and if that's the case, then you will probably be able to take an XFactor plus Kestrel and punch up 300, 400k, would be my guess. In any case, sit back, relax, and enjoy this one. And next up is the obligatory Heroes for Hire attack. We're going to be taking that on with Infinity Watch, and this attack takes quite some time, but I do end up with a win here. I don't have much to say on Infinity Watch versus Heroes for Hire that I haven't already said, so with that, let's just sit back and watch the fight. Alrighty, next up we've got a Misfits team here. This is going to have Magneto, Emma, Mr. Sinister, Invisible Woman, and Ultron. To this point, I had used some of my better teams, and I wasn't 100% confident with what I had left, so I decided to take in my Kestrel Secret Avengers Shield team. Now, Kestrel and Secret Avengers here are to do a couple of things. One, we're going to have Kestrel up against Mr. Sinister. I don't have to worry about a clone anymore. I'm hoping Kestrel's ultimate can take out Ultron on the first shot, so I don't need to worry about his bots. I don't need to worry about him reviving. And Secret Avengers has the ability to do some summoning, also affect some control. I do have a blind to deal with Magneto coming into this one. Kestrel will be completely immune to that because she's a self-cleanser. So a lot of this is kind of taken care of just in the personnel, and Kestrel is really the best character in War offense, let's be honest. She is the most flexible, and that's what makes this one tick. That said, a couple things to think about. Captain Sam's ultimate does give speed up when there's tunes left on the board. Sharon Carter's special will put defense down out there, which Kestrel can then key on every time you attack someone who has defense down. Kestrel will also follow up with an attack on the weakest player left with defense down. So with that, we can get some extra taps and clean out this team rather quickly. Other than that, I'm really not too concerned about this matchup. It's not a very high-powered mix of 5. And, like I said, Kestrel does a lot of the heavy lifting with it. My next attack is Wave 1 Coulson versus Ravagers plus Shuri. This battle was recorded previous to me unlocking Star-Lord T'Challa, and for a while I was running Shuri with the Ravagers team. Ravagers 4, without Star-Lord, is actually rather formidable, especially if Yondu is huge. His summons are no slouches, and the turn meter rewind from the Boomer special, as well as the health steal from the Ravager Stitcher, makes this team very, very difficult to deal with. Shuri being a tech tune for a 5th was a nice addition in the interim while I didn't have Star-Lord T'Challa. She offers healing and a couple of nice tech synergies. Now for me, the goal here is to use Yondu's ultimate to take out as much damage as I can on whomever I can. I'm really just trying to pick this team apart from the weakest link to the strongest. That said, Coulson is formidable, he's not small, and my Ravagers aren't great at this point, so do want to manage the damage as best I can. Granted, there's not going to be a lot of heal blocking coming out of this Wave 1 team, so I don't really have to worry about the health steals not working or something of that nature. General strategy here is take out the weakest links, and then work your way through with probably going for Coulson 3rd. Leaving Hawkeye and Black Widow for the end isn't that big of a deal because of the ability to heal up with your Stitchers. Alright, so next up we've got Supernaturals versus AIM. Now, I clearly did not think this matchup through very well before I took it on. I did think Supernaturals would be able to take out AIM, but the reality is, AIM is sneaky good, especially with Scientist Supreme's ability to flip all negative effects into positive effects. So even if I were to use my Doctor Strange and let his special wipe out all positive effects on AIM, I forgot about the fact that Scientist Supreme can flip all that, and suddenly AIM is a lot more difficult to deal with. To that end, this battle turns into a quit. If I had punched down a little bit more with my Supernaturals, this might not have been a problem, but it didn't work right away, and I noticed near the end that I was going to lose team member after team member after team member, and Doctor Strange's ultimate, which revives a tune, comes around very sparingly, and I couldn't really afford to wait to revive 3 characters. I wasn't doing well. So I did end up quitting out of this battle. This was totally the wrong team selection. Yes, Mordo can put on heal blocks. Yes, Ghost Rider can put down bleeds. Sure, they're all great things while they're on the team, but again, Scientist Supreme with her flip, and suddenly it goes very, very sideways. Alright, let's do it right this time. XForce. This is what I should have done from the very beginning, and it becomes plainly obvious as soon as I take on NTW's ult and Domino's ult. Between the two of them, they drop 2 characters into red, and X23 will take out Graviton. Then I head over to Scientist Supreme with Deadpool's ult, and Cable's special, and out goes Scientist Supreme. There goes the flip, and there goes the revive, so this should be a really easy cleanup. Now I'm on to another Wave 1 with Captain Marvel. This one is going to show Thor instead of Black Widow. And so I'm trying to figure out, as you can see, the team that I want to take on. Now, I'm thinking of Power Armor, but Power Armor alone does not have what it's going to take out a Thor that large and a Captain Marvel that large. So the question is, do I remove Ironheart or do I remove Rescue to put in Ultron? Ultimately, I decided to go with Rescue, and that seems to work out just fine. Now, Ultron does have the ability to extend the team quite a bit. When he summons bots, those bots have a lot of tech synergies, which works very well with Power Armor. And with that, I have a gigantic Falcon. I use his special almost immediately for speed. My War Machine is a great tune, so he does a lot of damage. Really, it's Ultron that is the MVP of this particular matchup, but it works very, very, very well with the Power Armor team. Now, of course, you're going to get stuck behind either Captain America or Hulk or both as tanks, so you're going to want to take one of them out. Now, Captain America does have that heal mechanic on an Avengers ally death, so taking him out first is very helpful. Thor is the highest power puncher on this team when it comes to working with the Wave 1 synergies, but Captain Marvel is no slouch and a self-healer too. So keep those things in mind. Hulk can be really annoying as a tank. He's very slow, he can auto-taunt. He does a whole lot to take care of this team, and if he's super thick, he'll take a very long time to get through, so bringing in Ultron will definitely help there too. That said, definitely leave Hulk for last, and you should be able to clean this up pretty easily. Next up, we've got Black Order versus Fury Coulson, Kestrel Shield. In a punch-across scenario, this is a very, very good chance of winning. The thing you do have to watch out for is Kestrel's ultimate right out of the gate. If her ultimate destroys your Cull Obsidian, that can be a real problem because of his passive. If, on the first Kestrel turn, you lose Cull Obsidian tapping every time somebody attacks Thanos or Ebony Maw, you will lose a lot of the firepower that Black Order brings. That said, Empowered Thanos is one of the most powerful characters in the game. Pair him up with an Ebony Maw ultimate, which is a health steal, and those two going together can really, really manhandle a team. Now this is the appropriate matchup. In a punch-across scenario, Black Order should always beat a defensive Fury, Coulson, Kestrel Shield team. In a punch-up scenario, Black Order is going to struggle. In a punch-down scenario, you could probably auto this. Reality is, what you're going to want to do is make sure if there's a shield medic to get rid of the shield medic immediately so that any Coulson revive will be gone. If there is a shield security, knock that out right away because that will just get in your way the whole time. And then you're going to want to focus on Kestrel. As it turns out in this fight, Kestrel stuck around until the end. However, I'm not too concerned about that simply because my Black Order holds up incredibly well on this attack. And because of that, 5 versus 1, 4 versus 1, Kestrel's not going to come back and win that. So sit back, relax, and enjoy this battle. Next up, we have Doomhood 2.0. Let me repeat that. Doomhood 2.0. Okay, this one was a lot of fun for me. This was kind of a YOLO match. Usually I would use XFactor for this, and that works because Kestrel can keep the Doom bots at bay, while the other 4 XFactor tunes can just clean up. In this case, both Kestrel and XFactor are already gone, so all I had left was Zemo and a couple of Eternals. I used Guardians of the Galaxy as filler, and I put them also in as spacers because the truth is, I did not want my Eternals standing next to each other, and I didn't want them standing next to Zemo. Their Magneto blinds everybody first, so my first turn with Zemo, he's blind. There's basically no reason for me to try to do anything other than a basic. Fortunately, my next turn is an Icarus ult, which will flip all of the negative effects off of my team, get rid of all the blinds, and take a huge swing at the Brotherhood team. After that, and the Circe ult, both Blob and Toad are gone, and a bunch of turn meter has been removed from the opposing team. A Star-Lord ult takes out Magneto, and a Groot special puts up some death proof. Right now, where I'm sitting, it's Doom and Juggernaut versus my whole team. And I made a huge mistake. Were I to do this over, I would have used an Icarus basic on Doom. And the reason for that is, with Icarus and Circe together, and with a vulnerable on Doom, that is a 5-tap turn, 4 of which are coming from Icarus, and 1 of which is coming from Circe. There is a 90% chance with where Doom was health-wise that I could have taken him out. The other better option, if I wanted to avoid Doom at all costs, would be to basic Juggernaut and get rid of him, and hope that I could get my Zemo to come around and take the next turn, because Zemo still had his ult and could have ability blocked Doom. The problem is, because I used Icarus' special on Juggernaut, I ended up triggering Doom getting the extra energy and pushing his ult, which knocks my team down. Fortunately, the Eternals survive all of that nonsense, and I end up coming through in the end anyway. But hindsight is definitely 20/20, and that's what I'm trying to pass on to you. Alright, we're at the penultimate match, and this is my attempt to clean up an Marauders where Strife and Minerva are already missing. This is a 300k-ish punchdown with my symbiotes, and I was hoping from the very beginning that I would be able to take this out. What really ends up happening is something that people who went through Dark Dimension 4 struggled with constantly. For anybody who hasn't completed Dark Dimension 4, what I'm referring to is the final city node where Symbiotes was the best team to go through Dark Dimension 4 for a very long time. In the wave before the final wave, there is an Emma. And if you do not get down to just Emma with your Symbiotes team, you're not going to get through that node. There were a lot of people who would get down to Emma and then put their game on auto with 5 Symbiotes. Not kidding. And the game would take 2 to 3 hours before it would kill Emma. She's just that good of a cleanser, and she's that good of a healer. Now, this was really dependent upon the Symbiote team power versus the Emma team power, but the truth is, this happened more often than not. On my first go-through, it took probably 45 minutes. On my second go-through, it took 15. Now, the reason for that disparity is the second time around, my Symbiotes were a lot more powerful. I'd added more stars, and I'd added a little extra gear and some T4s to the team. But that's exactly what I end up running into here, and I should have realized it at about the 3-minute mark that that's what I was doing. The only way to get through this would have been to put this thing on full auto and hope for the best. And I do that for a short period of time, but it's just not enough, and it leaves Emma behind. And now that that nightmare is over, we're on to the final matchup, which is Man, for a second I thought I was going to be smart about this and clean up Emma. But no, I ended up choosing to go to the Shuri Mercs next door and putting together a motley crew of Silver Surfer, Drax, Punisher, White Tiger, and Black Bolt. What was I thinking? I do want to know what I was thinking here. If anybody leaves in the comments what the heck I was thinking, I'd be happy to know. Truth is, this was a terrible, terrible decision. I should have gone in and taken out that Emma and ended the whole thing, but I was trying to get greedy with my last attack here. So, I guess what I was thinking is I didn't want to have to worry about all the blinding and the healing and whatever else, and I wanted my Silver Surfer to do what he did, but by the time he got to take his first turn, I was down to a blind Black Bolt who had a bleed on him and was almost gone as it was, and then just Surfer. In any case, I hope you found some of this informative and enjoyed the videos. As always, thanks for watching and have a great day.